Hello and welcome to episode number 16 of Hawk Talk as we continue to introduce you to the members of the Monmouth University Athletics Department. And my guest this evening is the head women's lacrosse coach who will be entering her third season next year. Say good evening to Jordan Troutman. Coach, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. The weather's been beautiful. The sun is out. Get to go to the beach. How about you? How are you and how are your family doing?
Good. I think definitely the weather has helped with two little ones. It's nice to be able to get outside and change the scenery with the little scenery changes that we have. It's really nice to be able to get outside with them. So it's been very nice to be able to get to the beach and all that good stuff.
And if anyone followed the women's lacrosse program on the Hawks 360 program on all of our social media channels, you know that the Troutman family has grown. So now, Coach, how is the now four-member family?
It's awesome. It's Hudson, my daughter, has been amazing with him. She's loving being a big sister and so far as gentle as she possibly can be. Every once in a while we have to settle down, try not to smother him, but it's been really fun. I think having this time has been a blessing in disguise a little bit, just because we've been able to be together. So I'm thankful for that, even though obviously I miss a lot of things that are happening at Mommoth for sure.
If you have a question for Coach Jordan Troutman, again, the head women's lacrosse coach at Monmouth University, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat, and I'll make sure to convey that question over to Coach. And before we talk about the season that had started off so strong for your program, Coach, and then abruptly ended, I think the first thing we have to do, because you were a coach that was in season when everything kind of stopped and we all got sent home, I guess the first question for me would be, how did that moment hit a team that was 6-2, was playing so well, had championship aspirations? I can imagine delivering that news to your team was not very easy.
Honestly, it just felt like surreal. I don't think that I handled it as, I feel like it was just sort of like it blew my mind. I feel like in some ways I was speechless, just like I am now. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought there was, that morning we were, kind of getting ready to go out to Arizona State. And then I spoke with our administration and it was sort of this holding pattern. And then it sort of just started, the wheels started coming off and it happened so quickly and so alarmingly out of left field to a degree, that it sort of left me speechless with the girls, because there isn't anything to say. We've worked, for 3 years under myself and obviously years and years just with them playing lacrosse. And it was tough. It was really tough. I mean, I think about it every single day still, and it's still hard to sort of process and move on from. But, in the moment, it was just sort of like this speechless moment where it was like, how is this happening? How are we in this situation? It was just so surreal.
And one of the interesting things when we look back that I think only pertains to your program, and as far as I know, maybe even as far as teams in the country, was that those moments were captured because of the Hawks 360 series, because of the Monmouth Digital Network cameras that were following you and your team around. And that last episode that I recently watched it again. It's very poignant to watch, the conversation you, your staff and assistants, and the senior leaders on the team have. And I know that now it could have a better ending because of what the NCAA has ruled recently. But in that time, Coach, there's no training you can do for that. What kind of things were you drawing on to try to navigate that process?
What process do you mean? Just sort of through the end of the season and kind of finishing? Yeah, I mean, I think it was just one of those situations where, and I still feel this way, which has been hard for me because I'm a very tangible, concrete person. There's just so many unknowns. And so even in that day, it was sort of like, okay, hold on, you guys, go grab lunch, come back. We're probably going to go out to Arizona. We'll be good. And so for not having concrete information has been really tough for me through this process, because I don't feel like I can convey very much back to my players, because there just isn't information as this, the landscape and the environment has changed so much and changes day to day and changes from state to state and institution to institution. So I think that's been something that I've struggled with a little bit. and I think everybody has, but I'm just such a concrete, I like having an end goal. I like knowing what I can and can't do. Um, it's just been challenging because there isn't much to talk about. We're in this waiting pattern. And that for me has been really frustrating. I know it's been frustrating for our players of like, when can we get back? We're a group of people that are always challenging ourselves to meet an end goal. And right now there isn't really an end goal to get to because there's still unknowns. So that's, during that time, it was just, I felt a little bit helpless with the lack of information that we had. And it was sort of like, okay, we've been told to leave campus. We can't be here. And I think a huge part of our jobs as coaches is being in front of our players and being with our players. And so, I hate the fact that I can't see them every day. I don't feel like I could ever put into perspective without this situation of how obsessed I am with my job and my players and wanting to be at work every day with a group of people that I admire so much and I love being around so much. So I think just, the unknown has been the hardest part because I just feel like we're always supposed to have answers as coaches and we just haven't really had that because of where we are in the world right now.
Well, and I think the concerns that you have are shared in whatever space or whatever position in life we all have. And we're people as administrators and coaches and broadcasters and everyone else who we look at things very black and white. It's very wins and loss. It's very, all right, you have to move on. So I would think that a lot of people, regardless of what their choice of career is they're probably sharing your sentiments. I know I am as well. It's easy to wake up every morning and have that end goal or whatever the next thing is. And we'll talk about what's next for this program during our Hawk Talk conversation here tonight. But before we do that, Coach, I do want to take a step back and ask how the players on your team are doing, how you and the staff are keeping in touch with them, how you did kind of right after this happened all the way through now when they got sent home. How are they doing and how has the communication been between the staff and the team?
We've been doing what everybody else has been doing. At the beginning, it was sort of like the Zoom calls and touching base with people here and there, just making sure, obviously the priority for the end of the year right after it happened was the academic side of things. So making sure that everybody was transitioning to the online learning and, handling their academics, which our kids did an unbelievable job. We had a tremendous semester academically. So I'm really proud of them for handling their business in a totally different environment. So that was the big priority for me, is just getting through the end of the semester academically. And then I felt like once we hit the end of what our end of our season would have been, quote unquote, it did feel like, and our coaches talked a little bit about this, it did feel like we could kind of close that chapter and move on to our off-season focus. And that actually felt good. We sent out our, beginning of the summer email with our workout packets, got everybody their workout, buddies, all that kind of stuff. So it felt like we were moving into the 2021 season rather than kind of like finishing up this piece of the season that really couldn't be finished. So I've been holding on to sort of like, okay, we're moving forward. That's done. The 20 season is done. And now we get to move on and be super excited about what's to come. So that's kind of where we are now. Everybody's, doing their workouts and talking to each other. And obviously with the Black Lives Matter things that are going on in the world, they've had a chance to speak as a team, and we're going to hop on a call tomorrow night and continue some of that dialogue. So, here and there conversation, but I think I definitely am an in-person coach. I like having conversations in person. So for me, this has been challenging because I just don't like, I don't love texting them. I don't like, the Zoom calls as much as I want them on the field or in the office or anything like that, as I'm sure everybody does. But I think that's been challenging. Just not being able to see people in person is tough.
And something that Coach just mentioned kind of leads me into our first point. And it's a reminder that if you miss any of our Hawk Talk conversations, including our previous episode, which was our Black Lives Matter panel, it's available on MommothHawks.com, as well as on the video tab here on the Monmouth Athletics Facebook page. It's timely to mention that because it was led by former students, and there were current student athletes on there as well. Taylor Emmel on this women's lacrosse program was on there, as well as another lacrosse player, Bryce Wasserman, on the men's side. So please, if you missed that, go back and check it out. Again, it is available on a variety of platforms. Coach, let's go back to this past season. You had mentioned when the news had come down that the season was canceled, you and the team were just getting ready to head out to Tempe to take on Arizona State. But the team was really starting to hit its stride, had won 3 games in a row, including a big win over Rutgers. This team, we knew, had a lot of expectations. You have not been shy about talking about those throughout the entire spring on video and to us in the office. And only one game, not scoring 10 goals all year, 6-2 when things ended. I know that you were really excited about this past year's team.
It was so fun. It was so fun. Every game that we played good, comparable competition as we were going into the end of the beginning of our season. And every team that we played was a challenge, and it was just so fun to be coming out with W's on the other side of those games. And it was good lacrosse. It was hard lacrosse. It was so fun. Winning is so fun, obviously, but it was just so fun because it was hard work, but it was such good work. And I was just so proud of what we had accomplished because it felt like all the things we had talked about and all of this work we had done was showing up in the win column. So I was just really proud of them for what they were doing, and they were backing up a lot of the things they had talked about. And, they were all about the ring season. And I always said to them, you have to put in the work if you want to talk about those things. And they were, and it was showing up on the field. And so, it was just so fun. It was really good lacrosse. And it was just, as I said before, winning is so fun.
Well, that answer leads me into our first question that is coming in via our Facebook live chat. And it comes in from the self-proclaimed biggest women's lacrosse fan out there. Lewis Walker is checking in. And Lewis, Coach, has a question that is something that when you and I have spoken, this has come up before. And the question comes direct, and it's define the culture that you, your staff, and the current and former players have built in your time at Monmouth. And you started to allude to it with your previous answer, but how that culture was coming together and has come together over the last 3 years up until the team was sent home this past spring.
I think there's so many layers to that question. But I think the biggest thing is lacrosse is a huge priority for everyone on our team. And I think that's the culture we're building right now is lacrosse, and everything that embodies being a part of this team is really important for people that are a part of our program. So it's the off season, it's the in-season training, it's the sacrifices they make, it's everything that it means to be a part of this team is a huge priority for our players right now. I think they're really proud to be on this team. I think those kinds of things, the energy and the effort that they're putting into our program right now is a huge reason for our success and the trajectory of our program right now. But I think sort of going back to what the culture and what the identity of our team is, that was a huge focus for us this year, is kind of identifying that and who we are and what we want to be, and not just this year, but sort of for the future of the program. And so I think just excitement and priority in being a Monmouth Hawk, I think is something that is where we're headed and who we are right now.
If you want to submit a question for Jordan Troutman, again, please throw it into our Facebook live chat, and I'll make sure to get that question over to Coach. You mentioned how much fun winning is. Well, if we look back at the last couple of years, each of your first 2 seasons at Monmouth, 6-2 in MAC play, consecutive 2 seeds, a regular season co-championship. The winning has been there. It sounds like the culture is there too. When you took the job a couple of years ago, is this where you saw things going kind of in your plan, in your own mind?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, yes, of course. That's that's definitely in my mind where I wanted to be. But, I think I sort of have these ideas about my staff really actually have these ideas about what we want to do and who we want to be. And I can put them out there, but it really has to be our players that buy into it and want to do it. And, actually one of our captains the other day sent me a text basically saying like, the culture isn't when a coach says it, it's when the players start essentially self-policing. And I think that's kind of where we are right now. Is I think they're coming up with their own ideas about what success should be. And essentially I want to get to the point where I'm irrelevant. They can do things and handle their business on their own. And I think that's kind of where we're headed. Is they're pretty self-sufficient right now. They keep each other accountable. They keep themselves accountable. And I think that's how you win at the highest level, is when people take individual and collective accountability and responsibility for what's going on. So yeah, I mean, this is what I hoped it would happen, and it's definitely, we've got a lot of work to continue to do, but we're definitely on the path that I was hoping we would be on.
I should have probably phrased it differently. Of course, in your mind, it played out a certain way, but now to watch it on the field, I'm sure it's pretty gratifying as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Coach, one of the real lasting, I think, things from this past year's team that thankfully will continue next year is that large senior class that, because of the NCAA's decision to allow student athletes the opportunity to come back, as you and I were talking, a lot of them are going to come back, and a lot of them can sense that championship. I mean, if you look at the names, there are players who are up and down the record book. And I know that class means a lot to you and to this program, and to be able to bring so many players back next year who have that goal and culture in mind, it's got to be a great feeling.
I don't actually think I could ever put into words how thankful I am that Monmouth and Maryland gave them the opportunity to be able to come back. I think that's the first thing, is just, I'm so grateful that people at the top of the food chain were able to see this situation for what it was, and give those a second chance. And then obviously to be able to financially support those who wanted to come back. And so I'm so grateful for Monmouth's support, our athletic director's support. It's just, I mean, it's special. It's amazing. It is unique. Not everybody had that. But yeah, I mean, the group of kids that we have coming back in their fifth year have obviously been a huge piece of our success, and will continue to be a huge piece of our success. And I think just the unfinished business. I think I think everybody is excited to be able to come back and be a super squad. I think we've got our incoming freshmen, coupled with our returners, and I think it's setting up to be a super squad. People have talked about that in the athletics world, of these teams coming back with returning seniors and kind of stacked teams, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be one of those teams. So I'm really excited about that.
And I know something that, again, like we said earlier, you've never hid from expectations. You want your team to have expectations. It means that they're headed in the right direction. So probably something that you and the squad are going to embrace for next year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what I thought was going to be our biggest challenge this season was going to be, everybody, we thought we were good. Our conference was giving us the respect that I think we deserved. And, with that comes having to perform. And so I was, my biggest concern was, everyone thinks you're good. We think we're good, but can we actually perform and do what we say we're capable of doing? And they were handling that. So I think there's also some sort of maturity that will go along with it. We were handling that. We were doing that. We were performing this year. And so I think some of those jitters and nerves will have worked themselves out this season. And then next year, we just kind of get to be a little bit more free and know we're good and have confidence in that. And then just kind of let it, kind of ride that, which is, the freer you play, the better you are. So I'm excited about that piece.
The questions are coming in for Jordan Troutman. And again, if you have a question for the head women's lacrosse coach at Monmouth University, just submit it into our Facebook live chat. I'll make sure that coach gets to answer that question. And the first question in this new part comes in, and coach, we're going to shift from talking about this past year's team to now the world of recruiting. And the question comes in, Lynn from Jackson, a regular on our Hawk Talk series, wants to know, with all of the cancellations and all of these tournaments and recruiting events no longer being held, how difficult has recruiting been now in this kind of new era that we're in?
I think fortunately for us, so we are done with our 2021 recruiting. I think that the 2021 class, that's going to be the rising seniors. I think they're going to have the most difficulty. Anybody who's still in a recruiting process is probably having the most challenging time right now, because they don't have a home and it's a little bit harder to get seen. Obviously, you have to be more creative. For us, we are very fortunate that we're done with our 21 class. So we have those guys set and coming, and super excited about them. And then the 22s, it's funny because the recruiting process that's ultimately going to happen for those 2022s is the recruiting process that I had, which was everybody's just a little bit older. So I don't think that there's going to be much difference. I think everybody's just, the 21s that still haven't found a home, I think are probably the most stressed in this situation. But everybody has been so creative with different ways to be seen during this time that I know everything will work out for that group of kids, but the 22s, I think, are the most feeling like there's pressure. And I don't actually think there will be that much pressure because there's going to be plenty of opportunities before they become seniors. So I'm very happy about that.
And now we head back to the questions coming in for Jordan Troutman. The next question comes in from Mary Moriarty. And Mary wants to know, Jordan, and this is an interesting question. What do you hope the young women who play for you will take with them after they leave Monmouth and give to the younger women below them when they become mentors?
Yeah, I think a huge piece of my coaching is confidence, and sort of standing up for yourself, I guess, is a big piece of what I think, when I break down all of the things that I like to give to my players. I think just being a tough, strong woman, standing up for themselves, speaking up for themselves and the things that they're passionate about. Confidence, ultimately confidence, I want is a big piece of what I hope that they'll take with them, because I think that with confidence and preparation and all of those other things, but mostly confidence, I think you can go very far. And so I hope that I leave with them with a lot of confidence in themselves, because I think if you get through 4 years of me, you've handled a lot. And so I want them to be confident leaders when they leave our program.
And that's something that we've even noticed watching some of the players go through your program, and even just walking around the office. You could see them being more assertive and being more confident in their time at Monmouth. And I know you had touched on recruiting just a bit and how much you like the class that's coming in to Monmouth. And I know Monmouth's in a great spot geographically to be able to recruit women's lacrosse. So, what about this class coming in, everything that Monmouth has to offer them, has you feeling the most optimistic about them?
Yeah, so the incoming freshmen that we'll have here in a couple of months is our first recruiting class. So Christy, Coach Kasner, and I came in together, and so this is the class that we've worked on together for the last couple of years. And when you say that Monmouth is in such a great location, actually, we went total non-traditional recruiting from non-traditional locations. So we've got a kid from Austin, Texas coming in, a kid from Minnesota coming in, a kid from down in Virginia, upstate New York, Connecticut, so Massachusetts. I mean, we're all over. So I'm really excited about that. They're coming from really exceptional club programs. And I mean, they're exactly who we want to be bringing into the program, with already an amazing established culture, and set of expectations that our players have created. I think they're going to be just an amazing group to add to what we already have, which I'm really proud of, and what we've been working to build inside of our program. So it's been really fun to work through the recruiting process with them, but I'm just so eager to get them on campus, because, now we've been kind of having them as a part of our family for 2 years, but now they actually get to come to campus and be a part of, our everyday Monmouth life.
Well, it's an interesting answer. You're almost like one step ahead of me, all of these questions, because the next question comes in. You're going to know the name because you just mentioned it, and someone that you know quite well. But Christy Kasner is checking in here on our Hawk Talk conversation, and she's got maybe the best question that we've had asked, with no disrespect to any of the other questions, but she wants to know, Coach, what's your favorite part about how the team interacts with your family, which, as you mentioned, had Hudson and now is one more, and how is it raising the two cutest kids in the world, according to Christy?
I mean, I actually was just with Christy at the beach about an hour and a half ago. So she was with my little ones. We actually said this is just the environment that Hudson and Tillman get to be around with these strong, amazing women. They're so lucky. I mean, Hudson, obviously being a girl, gets a little bit of a different experience of hopefully being one of those Hawks when she grows up. But I mean, it's just, I feel so lucky that they get to know all of our players. And, you know, Hudson was on the bus with us at one point this season and threw up on one of my players, which was awesome. Meg Hart handled that really well. But it's you know, and then, and Meg Hart was just like, this is happening. And, you know, they're like an extended family taking care of my immediate family. And I just feel so lucky. It's something that I know Hudson and Tillman it will help mold them into the people that they are. They'll be more confident. They'll be more socialized. They just get so many amazing perks by being around our players. And I love the relationships that they get to have. And I love also that it's, I think it softened me a little bit as a coach. I think it's made me a bit more approachable because my kids are around. And I'm so thankful for that because I think it's helped change me as a coach and developed a piece of my coaching that, you know, obviously I wouldn't even had the chance to develop before without kids. So that's been really fun for me too, just kind of growing in a different way that I didn't even expect to have happen.
Well, and it's really interesting that you bring that up because about 20 or so minutes ago, you mentioned to us how important your career is to you. You've really recognized that. You always knew it, but now during this time with everyone home, you realize it even more. So the fact that you can kind of marry your personal life and the work life together has to be very special for you.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I mean, it's the best. I think coaching, there's a lot of aspects of the coaching life that is difficult, but they are, I mean, the pros outweigh the cons, you know, 100 to 1. I just feel really lucky for the career that I have. And, you know, obviously having the support system to be able to have this amazing career comes from my coaching staff and my family at home and everything. So it's not just me making it work. There's definitely a pretty big village back here helping behind the scenes.
If you have a question for Jordan Troutman, again, please submit it into our Facebook live chat. And again, want to remind you, if you've missed any of our conversation, it will be available on MommothHawks.com. It'll also be available in the video tab right here on the Monmouth Athletics Facebook page. And Coach, the next question comes in. I have to preface it just a bit, though. Coach was a defender and a phenomenal defender in her own right at Georgetown. And since coming to Monmouth, you've overseen some of the best offenses that Monmouth has ever had. So with that in mind, our next question comes in, and it's a good one. Is there a coach or mentor that has influenced your coaching style with that defensive background, but coaching such an explosive offense?
I really cannot take much credit for our offense. I'm going to have to give all that credit to Christy. I sometimes feel like I have to apologize for not doing more because she is just crushing our offensive stats right now. So I have to say that our offensive strength right now and dominance is really because of Christy's vision and what she does with our players and the confidence and the skills that she develops in our offensive players. In terms of a coach that has really been a mentor for me and somebody, I mean, I think obviously my college coach, even my high school coach, but I had an assistant coach at Georgetown, Mitchie Ellers, who she just was so cool. She was on the U.S. team. She had played at Georgetown, and she was tough and she was intense and she knew what she was talking about. She held me to a very high standard and she made it really cool to work hard and be good. And she is definitely somebody, she was a defender, but she really, you know, she had input all over the field. And she's somebody that I think about, you know, trying to emulate just because of the effect that she had on our program and obviously me individually.
And with that, we go to our next question. And it's, a really, really good question. And it's going to really tie Coach's playing career and Coach's coaching career kind of together. And Deborah is in Pennsylvania. And Deborah's question, again, is a great one. She references that you played against Monmouth back in 2006 in an NCAA play-in game, a game in which your Georgetown Hoyas won. So since then to now, how has the Monmouth program grown in your eyes, and what were the most attractive features about the job that drew you over to the Jersey Shore?
Yeah, I mean, I think the changes have really been made across women's lacrosse. The sport is just grown so much. So I think that's just been exciting to be a part of the changes, and even the rules and everything. The last couple of games have changed quite a bit. So I think there's been just growth in the sport over that period of time, which has been really exciting. And for me, I think the thing that drew me to Monmouth was, I mean, when I say we want to win a championship and we want to be this, powerhouse in our conference, Monmouth was there for a long time. And I think having had that high level playing experience and sort of tradition is something that is exciting, because you can get there, and you have the support, and you can get the players to be able to get to that level of play. So for me, it felt like a program that has been there and can do it, and just kind of needs to get back on the road. And I love a challenge. I love being an underdog. And so that's kind of what it felt like from a program perspective. And then, I mean, Monmouth is just the easiest sell. You get people on campus, and it feels like it sells itself. You just walk around campus at the facilities are unbelievable. We've got a brand new stadium. We've got a brand new this. We've got a brand new that. And then, oh, by the way, we're 2 minutes from the beach and, 45 minutes from New York City. So the recruiting, once you get them on campus, that's the easiest part, I feel like. It's educating people about Monmouth, which has been so fun, getting our name on the map. And, even Christy was saying, during the recruiting circuits in the fall and last summer, just how much the Monmouth name has popped up on people's conversations. And I think that's a huge indicator of what our players are doing on and off the field, and getting the Monmouth name out there in a lot of different ways, a lot of really positive ways. So another, really exciting part about the Monmouth program is that name recognition. People are starting to know who we are and know what we're doing.
Also, it probably helps, and you alluded to it there in your answer with the facilities, but when you played at Monmouth, it was Kessler Field then, Kessler Stadium now, a lot nicer.
Yeah, I do vividly remember going down into like a dungeon where the locker room was, and it was just sort of an open cement, and I haven't seen that, so I don't know we don't have facilities like that anymore, so I don't know where they were taking us, but
I feel old even saying that, because I actually worked that game as a student assistant in the SID office. I didn't realize you were on the field for the Hoyas. Now the grays that are coming in are even a little shinier. Next question comes in, and it comes in from Joe Compagni, and Joe's a regular contributor here on our Hawk Talks. And he's got another good question, and he mentions even Joe loves women's lacrosse, of course. But Jordan, when you were in college at Georgetown, what was your second favorite sport to follow with the Hoyas? We know women's lacrosse was number one in your life, but after that, what was the next sport that you were most interested in following in college?
I feel like because my husband's a Georgetown football player, I have to say Georgetown football. This is so like snobby, but I feel like women's lacrosse was like the only thing I cared about. The only team that I really cared about. But you have friends on every team, so we would go to football games and basketball games and women's basketball games and men's lacrosse. We were pretty close with the men's lacrosse team, so I feel like probably men's lacrosse was the other team that we followed most closely. Obviously, you're in season and sharing training room and stuff like that, so that was probably the team we went and supported the most.
I think people forget too that setup and please forgive me, I've never been there for a lacrosse game, but for football, that's such a great setup in the middle of campus. Is that also the same field that home lacrosse games are played?
Yes, yeah, and I actually think it's an even better lacrosse stadium because it's kind of like Monmouth, but without the track. So it's very intimate. You kind of have everybody right there. It's a perfect lacrosse stadium because it's an appropriate size for, obviously we don't have 100,000 fans coming to our games. So it definitely felt like everybody was there and the crowds were big and stuff like that, which was fun.
Yeah, I was back there way back when in the early 2000s. Monmouth played Georgetown in football and actually won in a last-second play. And I remember thinking that is a really great setup. So you've had you get to play there and coach at Monmouth. That's a pretty good setup.
Yeah, totally.
Next question comes in, and Coach, you had alluded to earlier getting ready to go out to play Arizona State when obviously we got all the news to go home. And one of the things that's been constant in your time at Monmouth has been a willingness to go and play major teams and to really go and bring the Monmouth name wherever you can. So if you wouldn't mind, just address your scheduling policy, not only playing those great Power Five teams, but also playing the always tough Patriot League teams.
Yeah, I think for us, I've really wanted to start booking, more of those Patriot League games. I think that's the next conference above us that is very competitive for us, and sort of the next level that we need to get to. So it's been exciting. Obviously, they're pretty local for us. I mean, I know Holy Cross isn't super local, but it was an easy trip up there for us. And we've got Lehigh and Lafayette, and then even down in Maryland, we've got Navy and Loyola that are pretty close. So, it's been. I think it's important for us to play up. We want to win games. We want to play up a little bit, do a little bit of everything in our out of conference scheduling before we get to our in conference, because that's where we're going to get the AQ. So Christy and I take a lot of time to talk about what our sort of how our schedule, our out of schedule conference, our out of schedule play should look. So we are thoughtful of wanting to win games and wanting to challenge ourselves and having sort of, a progression as we get into conference, and we need to be fully prepared for, to win the MAC.
Questions coming in for Coach Troutman, and the next question comes in. Lewis again is checking in, and this is a very good question. It's hard as coaches, he makes the point, to single out players, but he's going to do that with his question, Coach, and ask what kind of impact to your program Rachel Mills has made in her time at Monmouth. Such a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, so the funny story about Rachel is I actually recruited her at Kane. She came for a visit, and I walked around with her mom, and then she ultimately decided to go to Towson. And so when she chose, she was transferring from Towson, she reached back out to me. And obviously I knew exactly who she was and was very excited. And my hope is always that, when I lose a kid I really want, they'll transfer and they'll come back to me. And it actually happened. She's the best person. She is the best student. She is the best leader. She is the best teammate. She's the best lacrosse. I mean, she's a full package. She's a tremendous athlete, but she's even more so, she's just such a tremendous person. And she's thoughtful, and I mean, everything. And the thing about it is, if you ask any person on our team, they would say the exact same thing about it. I mean, she'll give you the shirt off of her back. And she's a special kid. She's a player that you come across only every so often. And I'm so lucky that I did have a chance to have her a part of our program, and even more fortunate to have her for another year.
And another award to add to her mantle place was one that she earned, and it would have been given in person had we been able to do so, but she claimed the Kelsey Award, which is one of the athletic department awards handed out. And really, that's one of the most prestigious ones. It goes to the student athlete with the highest GPA. Rachel, with a 4.0 in psychology, won the Kelsey Award winner. 17 Hawks got MAC all-academic team. Coach, I know you want to win on the field, but it's pretty evident that you and your program want to win off the field as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, we talk about being the best wherever we are. That's in the classroom. That's in the community. That's on the field. And again, this is the things that I say in front of the team, but it's really the work that they put in to get those results. And we had community service this year that I was so proud of. Obviously, the academic side of things, I'm just incredibly proud of them for what they've done. But it takes a lot of work. I mean, I have very high standards, and they put in an enormous amount of work to get to where we are right now. And, most of it has to do with them and the sacrifices they make. And, I give them some direction, but they're really buying in, and they're doing the work. And, that makes my job easier.
Question coming in. Megan in Belmar has a question, Coach. And Megan's question is going to kind of force you to look inward this time, and not so much about the players on the team, but think back to all of your memories, be them on the playing field, on the sidelines as a coach. What is your favorite lacrosse memory in your career to this point?
I actually have two. One is super recent. I have to say that the Rutgers game was so fun. I mean, for me, that was a Big Ten win. They used to be in the Big East, so I knew them as an opponent. I mean, I think everybody hyping up the Monmouth Rutgers competition on Monmouth's campus was really fun. So as a coach, that was definitely a big one. I have to say, I think about that a lot, and it was just really fun because it felt like we were there, we'd made it. And as a coach, that's really what I wanted to do. And then as a player, we beat Syracuse under the lights for a Big East championship. I think it was my junior year. And, you know, they say as a player, you can kind of get into the zone and everything slows down. And I remember that game just being like in slow motion. Everything was so easy. And it was just this incredible game. And that was obviously a big win for us. So it was fun.
Yeah. The great, whatever it is, athletes, musicians, they always say that when it gets to that point and things slow down, you know that you've reached a certain status. I haven't had it happen yet. So when I have it happen, Coach, I'll call you. All right. The really not just tremendous coaching, but the next question coming in again, asking about your playing career. Now, New Jersey's your kind of adopted state. You're from Connecticut. So Kelly in Spring Lake has a question. Think back to your time. You were Connecticut Lacrosse Hall of Famer. How was the youth scene in Connecticut kind of coming up there? And do you ever make it back to your home state at all now that you're down in New Jersey?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and then went to high school in Connecticut. So I sort of had this I grew up in Ohio, but all of my extended family was from New England, so kind of dual ties there. But I mean, both in Ohio and Connecticut, I mean, the sport has grown, and I mentioned this earlier in this conversation. I mean, the sport has grown. I mean, it has exploded. So the youth side of things that didn't exist. I started playing, and my dad played in college, and and he was a coach. So that's sort of how I got exposed to the sport. But I didn't start playing on a team until my freshman year in high school, which is so unusual. But it was soccer. And then, then I started playing lacrosse when I could finally play on a team. But now everybody's into different, youth organizations, and there's tons of feeder programs and stuff like that. So sort of these non-traditional areas are no longer non-traditional. They've got these amazing youth programs. And as the sport has spread, you get better coaches and refs, and that really brings the quality of the programs up and up. And that's what you're seeing in places like Connecticut and Ohio.
So originally from just outside of Cleveland, went to Connecticut. You worked for the NFL for 2 years in player marketing. So, Coach, I have to ask you, who's your NFL team then?
Okay, I am a Browns fan, and my husband's a Jets fan. So I think collectively we have like 3 wins in the last 6 or 7 years. So every win feels good around here. It's really depressing, but we're not fair weather fans.
No, you stick it out, and that's what's important.
Totally. And every single year, my husband's like, "This is the year for the Jets. This is the year for the Jets."
Well, next year's always better, and you know what?
This is the year for the Jets. This is the year for the Jets.
Both them and Cleveland are going to be improved, so there's a lot of optimism in the house.
Exactly.
Coach, I really want to thank you for joining me here this evening. I know it's never easy to step away from not just one little one, but now 2 little ones. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and kind of give us the insight to the Monmouth Women's Lacrosse program, and wish you and the family continued health, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it was a pleasure. And if you missed any of our conversation here tonight with Jordan Troutman, again, it's available on MonmouthHawks.com in the archive on the Hawk Talk page. You can also view it in the video tab here on the Monmouth Athletics Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube channel. For Coach Troutman and everyone here with the Monmouth Digital Network, I'm Eddie Acapinti saying goodnight from Hawk Talk.